Good afternoon. Hello, nice to see you. Is there anyone here today that was not here last week oh, wonderful, well, welcome. So my name is Kimberly Goodman. I am the executive director here at the McConnell Arts Center. Just a little bit of history about the center for the new folks. So this is the original Worthington High School that was renovated in 2009 as the Peggy R. McConnell Arts Center. We have 20,000 square feet. Below you is a dance studio and a ceramics studio. Across the hall, I'm going to encourage you after this to go and visit the exhibit that we have. We have a gallery that last week was being installed and now is available to you. And then upstairs there's more gallery and wall space and painting and drawing classroom, and also our admin spaces up there. So welcome, please sign up for our newsletter and find out what we're doing. I have to thank the City of Worthington and Cliff Wiltshire from Worthington Spotlight, who are the sponsors of this event, so we're so grateful to them. A couple of just housekeeping things. There are restrooms on every level, and this is a very informal presentation from Gregg where you can come and go, you can ask questions, so we want it to be a great opportunity to learn. So again, there are no tests, right? This isn't that kind of environment. Just a few other announcements. Next week we have a double header. So we have 2 weeks in a row where we have a Monday and a Wednesday. And Monday is going to be incredible. One of our gallery artists, AJ Vanderelli, is going to be in. She is going to talk about some of her works that are on display, her artistic process, and then she's going to walk you through the gallery to look at the art. And so, but we'll start in here and then we'll kind of spread out, and it's such a cool opportunity to ask the artists all those questions. I want to know, how does she name her pieces, right? How do you decide this? I can't wait to ask her. Wednesday, we have another presentation that is David Cohen, who is talking about, he has interviewed World War II vets. You will see his book on sale in the lobby with Kristen. The following week on Monday, October 2nd, how is it October? Is that really next week? Yeah, it is. Okay. October 2nd, Alexis Wilson will be speaking about her book, which is also on sale in the lobby, and then we'll have another presenter on Wednesday. So again, 2 double headers coming up. I just want to make sure you knew that. There is a survey that many of you grabbed. Thank you for doing that. A lot of you filled it out last week. It's helping us figure out what we're doing next, right? We're currently programming our spring semester and already looking to fall 2024. So we want to hear from you what you've enjoyed, what we could do better. So helpful. Thank you. Just a couple of highlighted events. I have a shameless self-promotion. So I'm a flutist, I'm a classical musician, and I have a flute quartet. And we are giving a recital this Saturday at Huntington Recital Hall at Capital University at 6 p.m. that is free and open to the public. So that's my shameless plug. Here at the MAC, tomorrow night we have the Worthington Chamber Orchestra is doing Mozart's Grand Partita, which is a very unique work for just winds. That is at 7 o'clock. There will be tickets available at the door. Friday, in just a few days, we have a performance that I think is one of the most important of our entire season. We have a gentleman, his name is Guy Banks, but his stage name is Tronny Threat, which is a great name. He was incarcerated, and he tells the story of his incarceration and his life after being released from prison. He tells that through music. So it's a really fascinating program. That's this Friday night at 7 o'clock. Last promotion is we have a flamenco dance teacher named Grisette, who is from Cuba but resides here in Columbus. She is teaching a chair flamenco class. So you can learn flamenco dance, but in a seated position. So that starts in October. So I really want you to encourage you to go to our website and see all of the offerings. We are running over 50 classes this fall here at the MAC. So it's a very busy time. So we are thrilled you are here. You're gonna laugh. I'm an Android person, so I'm gonna show myself out. And I don't know what I would add to the conversation. So anyway, but I want you to meet, Gregg's reputation really preceded him. When we sat down and talked about having presenters, people said you have to have Gregg. So this is Gregg Montgomery. He's gonna teach you all the tips and tricks about your iPhone. So welcome, Gregg. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much for the warm welcome. I'm very excited to be here. I heard about this new lifelong learning group coming together, and So Jim contacted me and put me in touch with Kim, and today's the day. So I'm very excited to be here and meet a new group of folks and go over this content, which I think is exciting, and I think a lot of people are craving for, how do I use my iPhone? Right? These things have a mind of their own, and they change so quickly. And so the notes that I've come up with for today, since this is kind of an introductory class, and by introductory I don't necessarily mean introductory to the phone. I think it's more introductory, like me to you and you to me. The content we came up with today was intended to be basics, but also just kind of a list of tips and tricks and things that you can leave today feeling like I gained a few useful tricks for my iPhone. So I just called this content Gregg's Top 10 Tips. So that's where we're going to start. On that note, so Kim mentioned something, which was that she's an Android user, and I think that's important just for me to follow up with, because I one time went through a whole class for 2 hours, and then at the very last few minutes, someone raised their hand and said, "My screen doesn't look anything like your screen." And so I learned my lesson to address this at the beginning of class, which is to make sure that, at least for this class, that you have an iPhone. I think sometimes people get confused and they say, well, I have a smartphone. Isn't that the same thing as an iPhone? No, not exactly. An iPhone is one type of smartphone, and then an Android would be another type. And so an Android would need a totally different class. So anyways, so if maybe you already know, I went to the Apple Store, I bought my phone there, so I know it's an iPhone. Or maybe look at the back of your phone. If you can get the case off easily, look for an Apple logo. Or also, I'll turn my screen on here, and you can just make sure that your screen looks pretty similar to mine. I think the video's connecting. There we go. So as long as your screen, maybe you recognize some of the same apps, then we're good. But if you have an Android phone, that will be a whole different class. So one other thing to mention is that the things that I'm going to go over today, most of these things should apply to an iPad as well. I used to do an iPhone and iPad classes separately, and really I just came to think that it's the same class. Because an iPhone is just a giant iPhone that doesn't make phone calls. And otherwise, it's the same thing. It's the same app. It's a bigger screen, but otherwise, it's pretty much the same. So what you learned today on your iPhone, or if you came with an iPad, that's okay too. Yeah, things should apply to both devices, but I'm going to teach from my iPhone. And I think the last thing I should mention is just a teeny tiny bit about myself, which is that I got my start really working with Apple computers, devices, when I was studying art and graphic design. And of course, artists are usually Mac people, not always, but usually. And then I worked for the Apple Store for a number of years, and that's how I really kind of learned a lot about this stuff. If you've ever been in an Apple Store, it's crazy in there, right? You've been in there before. It's kind of awful to be in there. It's so loud and busy, and there's people playing video games on the computers, that you're trying to look at because you want to purchase something. It's a hard place to shop. It's also a hard place to work. And so I was one of the trainers there. People came into the store for classes, and I approached the management and I said, we should take these classes out into the community. And they said, no, that's not what we're interested in. We want people to come to us. And of course, you all know the reason why. When you come to the store, you buy something. And so anyways, I don't have anything to sell you. I'm just here to teach you some tips and tricks on your iPhone. So thanks for coming today. And I think with that being said, let's dive in. So, okay. Yeah, and if you have questions, so as Kim and I were kind of discussing how to, arrange the class, we thought, we just wanted to make sure that at some point we had time for some Q&A. So depending on, if we can get through this list, we'll have time at the end, but I'm also super flexible. I'm very easy to get off track, for better or worse. So if you have a question, please ask, and then I'll eventually get us back to the list here. So anyways, I want to make sure everyone leaves today with something that they can, find useful. So, okay, well, so the first one I have on the list here is the auto lock feature, which really is named poorly, but that's what Apple calls it. It's not my term. But if you've ever been frustrated that your phone or your iPad goes to sleep, where the display goes off so quickly, and then you have to wake it back up, punch in your code again, and it's just like, this drives me crazy. You can extend that timer. So this is always the first one I do in every class, just so that your phone isn't constantly going to sleep and you're having to wake it up during the class. So, so here's where we're going to go. And actually, I'm going to see if I can, if I have a laser pointer in my bag. I think it should work. Okay, let's see. Hey, can you see the red dot? And can everybody hear me okay? Okay, good. Okay, so the auto lock feature. So where we're going to go for this is, if you can open up your phone and come to this screen right here, in case you're not sure what this is called, or if you don't know. This screen right here is called the home screen. It's the screen with all of your apps. Now, I realize that your screen will probably look different than mine. I try to keep all of Apple's native apps that are built into the phone. I try to keep those on my main screen. But it's very possible to rearrange these, and I kind of make an assumption that most people have rearranged them, or maybe your adult children or your grandkids have gotten a hold of your phone and they've rearranged it for you. So it could look different, but hopefully you see some of the same apps. So what we're looking for here is the Settings app is where I'm going to go. It's these silver gears. It's an app that can't be deleted, so it's there somewhere. So hopefully you can find that. And then that just made me think of one more thing, which is sometimes when I do classes, I'm in a smaller room, and it gives me the ability to move around the room and help people if they get stuck or if they can't find something. And in a setup like this with a theater and I'm on stage, I can't really do that. My recommendation is to, if you feel like you might need some help or you might get stuck, sit next to somebody who you feel like can help you. So, and certainly feel free to ask, but I won't have the ability to come down and get you unstuck. So anyway, but I'll try to keep a good pace. I don't want to leave anybody in the dust. So anyways, we'll see how we do. Okay, so the Settings app. So the silver gears, and so I'm going to give that a tap, open that up. And what we're looking for here in this list is called Display and Brightness. And so I'm going to glide up. You don't have to glide too far. There it is. So Display and Brightness with this blue icon with the 2 letter A's in there. And so you can tap anywhere in the bar right here. And what we're looking for now is the feature that's called Auto Lock. And this is a little ways down, so you have to glide up. And there it is, Auto Lock. Now you can see mine says never, and I'll explain myself here in a moment. But go ahead and tap somewhere on this bar where it says Auto Lock. So it's kind of a weird technical phrase, I guess, to call that auto lock. I would much rather this be called something like, the sleep timer or the display sleep or something like that. Anyways, auto lock is what Apple calls it. But the idea here is that the time frame that you see listed here is the time that after you set your phone down and walk away, if the screen is still illuminated, this is the time, and after which then the phone automatically locks. Even the word lock is a little misleading. The word lock, at least in this context, doesn't have anything to do with the passcode that you have to type in to unlock your device. This really just means the phone is going to sleep. So even if you don't have a passcode and your device doesn't really lock, this feature still is, it is what it is. So, but anyways, you can see here your choices. If you've never changed this setting out of the box when you got your phone, it probably is set to 30 seconds, which is barely enough time to blink, and then your phone is back to sleep. So my recommendation is 5 minutes. Now you can see mine's on never, and so I guess what I'll mention here is that I put my phone on never while I'm teaching a class, and then as soon as I leave class, I switch mine back to 5 minutes. So never is not really what I recommend, and I don't even use that myself unless I'm in class. So most people, I think, should be able to just kind of set it and forget it. But because of what I do, I have to change this setting every other day. So anyways, but you shouldn't need to do that. So 5 minutes is what I recommend. Now the whole purpose for this setting here is just to help save your battery. And so if you were to set your phone down and walk away for a few minutes and the screen is illuminated, that's going to drain your battery. Anyways, if you put this on never, you could walk away potentially for an hour and then the battery would be dead. So you'd have to charge it before you could use it again. Anyway, so this is just trying to be a battery saver, but 5 minutes is not really too bad. And then I'll also mention if you're on an iPad, you get much longer timers. Instead of just 5 minutes, I think there's one that's up to like 5, 10, or 15 minutes. And the reason for that is because the iPad has about 4 times the battery capacity that an iPhone does. And that's just because it's physically larger. And so just kind of hold your iPhone up to your iPad and you can see that you can fit about 4 iPhones within the space that your iPad takes up. So the iPad has a much greater battery capacity. So the timers are longer. So that's really it. All you have to do is tap what you're looking for, 5 minutes or whatever is your preference. And there's no save or apply button. So you would just hit the back button up at the top left. And that's it. Your setting is made, and yeah. And then you can just keep going. So any questions about that? So for the iPad, I think you could go up to 10 minutes is probably good. Yeah. Yeah, great. All right. No. Thank you. Yeah. So this timer is only when there's no activity, where you haven't touched the screen. Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah. If it's playing a movie or or if you're reading an article, as long as you're moving the screen as you're reading the article, then it won't shut off on you. But yeah, and if it's playing a movie, of course, you're not interacting with the screen, so it won't shut off then. Just if you're not touching the screen at all, really. Yeah, so that's when it does that. Yeah, good. All right. Okay, next one. Okay, so for this next one, actually, I'm going to insert a new one that I just kind of came across this morning, and it didn't make it into my notes. And I got an email this morning, and I was like, this should have made the list, and I didn't think about it, but it's, I think, a really good one. And that is a method to detect scams in your email by identifying who that message really came from. So let's look at that real quick. So I'm going to go back here to close out, and then I'll go back one more time, that left arrow to go back, and then I'm going to return to my home screen here. And of course, to return to your home screen, either you can just click your home button, that's the round button at the base of your phone, or if you're on an older phone, or you just do that flick upwards from the bottom to return to the home screen. Okay, so I'm going to open up my email, and I'm going to show you an email message that I got this morning. Okay, and it is this message here, so I'm going to open that up. Okay, and so here is a scam message that I got, and it looks like it's an invoice, which this is actually a very common, new, popular scam, which is somebody sends you an invoice for something. Many times it's security software, and it makes people go, wait, do I have a subscription to Norton LifeLock or, McAfee or whoever it might be? So of course it's bait. The idea is that you go, I don't even think I have one of those, so I'll call this phone number. No, no. Never ever call that phone number. But just to give you one tip that you can do, if by chance you look at this and it sort of looks convincing, and these kind of messages are getting better and better. You can see here I've got the PayPal logo and the Geek Squad logo, so it looks like the Geek Squad wants me to pay a subscription for some type of security software. Just in case you get these, security software does not cost anywhere near $420 per year. You can get security software for less than $100 for a subscription per year. So anyways, let that be one of the red flags that you see when you get a message like this. But the real one that I wanted to show you was how you can come up to this block right here. There's a light gray line. This block at the top here is called the header of this email message. And even though this part here looks kind of shady, which it is, this is kind of a giveaway, but really what I want to show you here is up in the header. And I think a lot of people don't really pay much attention to the header and the information that's up there. And there's a couple of clues in here that tell me that this is a scam. The first one is it says to, and then it says, undisclosed, and you've probably seen these before where it says undisclosed recipients. Well, if this is an invoice, why is this going to more people than just me? So that doesn't make sense. So that's one red flag, is that why are they sending me an invoice and copying other people on it? That's pretty weird. Okay, but here, I look at the sender. Now, so this is just somebody's name, but if this is from the Geek Squad, it's probably not going to be someone's name. But the one thing that you should know is that the name that you see here that appears in bold, this can be, this is really more of a description. It's not the actual email address. And, email senders can put whatever name they want. And so in this case, Alondra was kind of lazy because what she should have put is Geek Squad. And so this in bold might just say Geek Squad, and that would have been a lot more convincing. So Alondra didn't do a very good job, but there's another way that you can tell, even just by beyond looking at this. What I really want to see is, I don't want to see the name of the sender. I want to see the sender's email address, because that is going to give me the best clues as to whether or not this is a scam. So even if this said Geek Squad, that's not convincing to me. So what I'm going to do is, right here in the header, I'm just going to tap right on Alondra's name, and it's going to turn blue for me. So just one tap, and there it turns blue. And now what I can do is I can tap on Alondra's name again, and it's going to reveal to me the email address instead of just the name. So I tap Alondra Wiggins, and now here I see the email address. Now it's pretty long. I can't see the whole thing, but and so one thing that's very interesting about this email is that the name in here actually matches the title up here. Usually it's a mismatch. But here then I see Alondra Wiggins and then a whole bunch of random letters and numbers. And then I can't see the whole thing, but it's pretty clear that this is at gmail.com. Well, if this is from Best Buy, why is this email coming from a Gmail address? Why don't I see the word Best Buy somewhere in this email address, either in front of the @ symbol or after it? So that is a huge red flag. So that's one of the best tricks to identifying a scam, is when you see an email that looks kind of shady, go up to the header and tap the name of the sender, and then tap their email or their name again once it's blue, and you can look at the email address. And truth be told, if this really were from Best Buy, I would expect to see the word Best Buy after the @ symbol over on the right side. And that's pretty typical for a large business. I will say, though, that if you're dealing with a small business, maybe a contractor or just somebody who works by themselves, they may not have the resources or the interest to create an email address that's their name at company.com. They might just make their email address their name at gmail.com. So anyways, for smaller businesses, you don't necessarily expect to see the name of their business on the on the back end of their email address. But for a large company like Best Buy is going to appear on the right side of the @ symbol. Anybody in the world can make an email address that says, Gregg Montgomery Best Buy at gmail.com, but that doesn't authenticate me as a representative of Best Buy. It's just I put the words Best Buy in my username. So when I see the name of the company on the front half, it doesn't really mean anything. It might be there. It doesn't mean it's illegitimate, but it doesn't make it legitimate either. You always want to see the name of the company on the right side of the @ symbol, at least for larger companies. But smaller companies get a little bit of a free pass. So, questions about that? Yeah.
So now what are you going to do? Do you just delete this, or do you block it? I thought there was maybe a limit on the number of blocks you can get.
There's no limit on the blocks. Yeah, so I do have blocked this contact. You certainly could do that. I usually don't take the time to do that. I just delete it. And the reason is because Alondra is never going to send me another email address anyways, or another email anyways. Alondra is going to change his or her name and then send me a scam message from a different email address. So you could take the time to block it. And my take is that it probably won't do much good. So I just usually delete it. So, yeah. Yeah.
Is it worth reporting it as spam?
I don't think so. You might get differences of opinion on that. But, I mean, there's just so many scammers and spammers out there that I think somebody in the government's probably working on it, but they probably aren't given many resources. So that's another thing that I don't sort of feel like is probably going to, result in anything. I could be wrong on that. You might get different opinions from other tech people, but so hopefully I'm not just being negative, but I don't think it's probably going to lead to much. Yeah, unfortunately.
So if you did respond to that mail, does that put you in a lot of liability?
It's a good question.
Repeat the question.
Okay, the question was, what if I did respond to this person? I hit reply and gave them a piece of my mind, or asked for more information or something. I think there's a good chance that no one would respond. These emails are usually created only for the purpose of sending a scam message out. Really, and what they hope to do then is they hope that I'm going to call this phone number here. So, it's hard to say if this could get me into any trouble if I hit reply. I don't think so, but I don't think I would test it. I think this email is probably unmonitored, so they don't really want me to reply via email. They want me to call. But sending an email back isn't going to lead to malware or a virus, or if that's the concern, that's not really going to get you into trouble. What might get you into trouble is if this is a monitored email address and somebody does respond, they might say to themselves, oh, I've got a live one here on the other end. Maybe I can send something back and put in some manipulative text, and maybe I can swindle somebody that way. So, so that might be the place where you could get into trouble. Yeah. So, all right. Was there another question? Good. Okay. All right. Good. All right. So let me back out here. So I'm going to close my email and come back here. And so then the next one on the list here is the flashlight. Hopefully you've maybe found the flashlight already, or you know how to access it. But the flashlight is a great tool, especially when you're digging through your bag or your purse or your car looking for something that you can't find and it's dark outside. So the flashlight is accessible through a feature on your phone called Control Center. And Control Center is accessed differently if you're on a phone that has a home button versus phones that do not have a home button. So that home button is a button that on your phone, it would be kind of below the screen down here, just a small round button, and that's your home button. But a lot of the newer phones, a 10 and newer, do not have a home button. The models that still have a home button would be the 8 and lower, or newer phones that are called the SE. The SE models do have a home button. So those are the models that do. So if you have a phone that has a home button, that round button at the bottom, you access Control Center by gliding upwards from the bottom, starting with your finger starting below the screen. So don't start here and glide up, start down here and glide up, and you'll get Control Center. Now on a phone that does not have a home button, you find Control Center by gliding downward from the top, but has to be the top right. Not that, because a glide downward from the top left is Notification Center, so you have to glide from the top right, starting up here above the screen, and that's Control Center. And there's all kinds of bells and whistles in here, and it's customizable, so yours might look different than mine. This might be a topic for another day where we could go through this in more detail. But the one that should be there is the flashlight. And so you can just give that a tap, and then your flashlight's on. And of course, that just uses the camera flash on the back. And then you can tap it again to turn it off. Now, one thing that, even if you have used the flashlight, you may or may not know this, but your flashlight actually has levels. There's 4 levels to your flashlight. And so what you can do is, on the same button there, do what's called a long press. And so not a quick tap, but kind of hold it down with a little pressure just for a second. And you'll get this. And so here's your levels, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so if you need a lot of light, you can do that one. And then if you want lower light, you can then tap the bottom, well, not the bottom block, the second block. The bottom block means off. But here you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And it gets a little bit brighter with each one. So, yeah. So, yeah, the flashlight is, at least for me, I use this all the time. So if you want to turn it off, tap that bottom button there. And then to close out of the screen, you can see there's no back button, which is usually at the top left. So what you do is you just tap down here in the negative space, and that will bring you back to Control Center. And then if you want to close out of Control Center, you can either do your press your home button, or you do your flick upwards from the bottom. You can also just tap in the negative space down here. By the negative space, I just mean tap somewhere on the screen that's not a button, and that will get you back out. So I will tap there, and that gets me back out of Control Center. So, yeah, so there's your flashlight, and it has levels. Apple just kind of quietly added that. So I think a lot of people were aware of the flashlight, but maybe didn't know that there are 4 levels to it, which is actually sometimes kind of nice. So, okay. And I don't see anybody with their flashlight still on, so that means you were able to turn it off. I've been watching. Yeah.
The iPad doesn't have a flashlight?
Correct. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, the flashlight is only on the iPhone just because it has a better camera, and the iPad has a decent camera, but not a super nice camera, so there's no flash. So, yeah, that's right. On that note, however, I will say, there are apps that you can get that are flashlight apps. They don't really use the camera flash on the back. What they do instead is they just they make your screen all white, and then it just increases the brightness. So it's not quite the same as a flashlight, but it does have some value. And so if you were interested in something like that, you would just go to the App Store and do a search for flashlight, and you would find something. So you can get something like a flashlight for an iPad.
So sometimes I have trouble turning on the flashlight, but then when I don't want it on, it comes up.
Okay.
This morning I just picked it up and the flashlight came on. So people come up to me with flashlights on.
Your flashlight's on. Yeah, I've seen people walking down the street, and I can see the flashlight through their pants pocket. It's hard to say. There might be an accidental tap somewhere. I'm trying to think if there's on the home screen when you wake it up. Yeah, so this screen right here has a flashlight shortcut. So when your phone so when the display is off here, when you first click one of your buttons here to wake up the screen, just so you know, this screen here is called the lock screen. It's not the home screen, but the lock screen. And there's a shortcut. This screen fades quickly, so there's a shortcut here for the flashlight. And I bet what's happening there is that there's an accidental press of that, or maybe when you're putting it in your pocket or something, your fingers touching that and turning on the flashlight. So, yeah, okay. The camera. Yeah, it doesn't do anything, right? I believe I haven't used this in a while. I think it used to you either have to hold, yeah, okay. I just had to hold it down for a couple seconds. Yeah, yeah, so a long press on that. Okay, good. So there's your flashlight. Okay, next one is battery health. Your iPhone, the battery on your iPhone is a consumable item or product, and and you may also find that you're charging your phone 2 or 3 times a day, and just thinking like, what is wrong? Why do I have to charge my phone so often? So your phone will actually tell you what its health is. So this is a great skill that I think everyone should have. So where we're going to go here is back into the settings. We'll probably be in the settings quite a bit today. So I'm going to go to the settings here, the silver gears. And what we're looking for here is going to be, there should be a setting just called battery right in this main list. Let's see here. It is, yeah. It's a little ways down from the top, but here it is, this green icon that says battery. And so give that a tap. Okay, and you'll see a couple things. So there's a lot that we could talk about in here, but really if we just kind of want to see how far consumed our battery is, what you're looking for here is battery health and charging. And so give that a tap. And you'll see here, this is what we're looking for, maximum capacity. You can see mine says 85%. So, and you might go, 85%, that's not bad, right? That's actually bad. So a phone that Apple considers consumed or used up is 80%. Yeah, and your phone may even begin to tell you, or it may give you a message on the screen that says service the battery. And that's really not a good word, because service makes it sound like they can fix it, but they can't fix it. It's consumed, so you have to replace it. Apple won't really do that for you. If your phone is under warranty, Apple will replace the whole phone for you. It costs Apple less to just give you a new phone than it does for them to pay somebody to open up your phone, put in another battery, close it back up, and get it back to you. Really? Yep. Yeah. So for that reason, if you ever have to go into the store to get your battery fixed, you want to make sure that you have a backup of your phone completed, because Apple's not going to fix the battery. They're just going to replace it. And so that means they're going to give you a phone that's a clean slate, and you'll want to restore your data from your backup to your new phone. So you want to make sure that you have a backup of your phone. That might be number 11 on our list, or 12 actually. I already did. I already inserted one. So yeah, we can maybe talk about how to do a backup. So yeah.
If you have insurance, I recently had this happen, and I still my batteries, they paid me to go to you break it, I fix it.
Oh, okay.
And they replaced it.
Oh, great.
So it didn't cost me anything, but that's because I paid that monthly insurance.
Okay, good. Yeah, so you're talking about the warranty.
Yeah.
Did you buy the warranty through Apple or through?
Yeah,
Through Apple? Okay, so that would be called the Apple Care. And yeah, And you can buy. They'll, of course, the salespeople at the Apple Store will always try to.
I bought it through Verizon.
Verizon. Okay, so maybe it was their like Assurian or something.
It was whatever that month.
Okay, okay. So yeah, so you can always buy insurance or a warranty or something with your phone. Apple sells one that's called Apple Care, and then Verizon or your carrier will also have their own, or Best Buy even has one if you buy your phone there. So anyway, so those warranties can also help you get your battery replaced. If you don't have a warranty and your battery is consumed or it's just driving you crazy, and I should mention, just because your battery level is at 80% or lower, that does not mean that you have to replace the battery. Um, you can continue to just use your phone and you just kind of take your charger with you and just kind of get used to charging it a lot. Let's see here. What's the other thing I was going to say? Okay, I lost it. It'll come back to me. um, yeah, so you can take it somewhere to get replaced. And so so of course there's the place called You Break I Fix. There is also, I think, the laptop guy who I think does this. You might want to call before you go, but and then also batteries and bulbs. Those guys will replace your battery also. The cost out of warranty is about $100, but it does differ depending on the model of the phone that you have. So there again, you want to call, but be ready for at least $100 to do that. Now, that being said, your battery should last you a couple years, but the big thing is what's causing your phone to lose the battery. And it really all just depends on what you're doing with your phone. Your battery is good for a certain number of what's called charge cycles or cycle counts. And that just refers to how many times the battery has been charged fully and then discharged. And so, after so many, I can't remember the number, but after so many, then your battery is consumed. So the person who is only, making one phone call a week on their iPhone just for emergencies, their battery is going to last forever. The person who's watching a movie on their iPhone every week, you're going to burn through your battery in a year and a half. And so it just depends on how you use your phone as to when, the battery goes bad. But I think for the average person who's just using their phone normally, I think you should probably get at least 2 or 3 or maybe even more years out of it. And so at that point, your battery may go bad right when it's time to just replace the whole phone anyways. So that's the kind of the question you have to come up against is when your phone is at 80% or lower capacity, you might say to yourself, well, I could spend $100 on a new battery, or my phone's a couple years old, why don't I just put that $100 into a newer model? And sometimes that's the better choice. But there are some people who say, I want to get I'm going to use my phone until it just, till it explodes, till it won't turn on anymore. And that's fine, you just have to, that's a personal choice everyone has to make. So, was there a question, yeah?
Yes, and I think I see the optimized battery charging. So I used to just plug in my phone every day, even every night, even though it might have been 85% charged.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't do that unless it's less than 80 now.
Let me see what that says. To reduce battery aging, iPhone learns from your daily charging routine so it can wait to finish charging past 80% until you need to use it. And so what was your question again? Just should you...
Does it wear down my battery if I continually charge it, or should I wait until it gets like 40% charged?
Oh, I see. No, you don't have to. You don't have to wait because even a portion, of, if it's not a full 100% charge, that only counts against you as like a half a cycle count. So you still get the full number of cycle counts. Just charging it for 10 minutes doesn't count as one cycle count. So you're good. Another good thing to know about your battery is that the batteries that you have in your iPhone is different than the batteries that you used to have in your old flip phone. So those were nickel cadmium, and these are lithium ion. And the big difference there, so as a joke, as a painful joke, you might remember your old flip phone. So just, you would charge it every night just like normal. And then the battery would go bad right at a year and a half, just after your warranty expired. Wasn't that interesting? The timing of those things. Then you had to replace your battery. So your iPhone lithium ion has a different behavior, which is that, and plus it's also run by more advanced software. So when you charge it at night, there's the potential to overcharge it, and that's what was happening with nickel cadmium batteries. Is you would overcharge the battery because it only took an hour to charge it or less, and then the rest of the night it was just cooking the battery. Well, you can't cook the battery on your iPhone. And so what happens is your phone charges up to 90, or I should say it goes up to 100%, and then what it does is it throws off, it dispels the top 3%. And then all night long, it goes from 97 up to 100, 97, 100, 97, 100. And it does that all night long so that it doesn't cook your battery. So if you've ever taken your phone off the charger in the morning and you saw that it said 97%, and you're like, it was charging all night long. How did you not get to 100%? You just happened to unplug it right at the bottom of that little cycle where it dispelled the top 3%. So, and then just so you know too, then this 85%, this means then that when I charge my phone overnight and up here it says that I'm full now means 85%. So I only get 85%. So even though my phone kind of up here tells me 100%, 85% is the new 100%. So that's why if your battery is even lower than this, that's why you have to charge your phone more than once a day, is just because this is that's your new highest that you can go because the battery has been consumed. So, yeah, questions about that? Okay, all right. Okay, so let's go on to storage. This is another good one. What's taking up all the space on your phone or your iPad? Do you get messages that say, hey, your storage is full, free up some space here? And then the question always comes is, well, which storage? Your iPhone and your iPad both have two places where they store stuff. One is the device itself, and then one is the cloud. And people get these mixed up all the time. And so I want to show you where to go to learn both because it's important to know where you're full. Is it the cloud or your device? And then, what do I begin deleting to remove more space? I should mention too that with the cloud, you have the convenience of paying more money to Apple, and they'll say, okay, we'll just increase your cloud space. But your phone capacity, you can't do that. It is what it is out of the box. When you buy it, it has a capacity. You can't increase it unless you decide to go and buy another phone. And for some people, their phone will reach an age where one, it's full, and two, it's old, and so they say, well, let's just replace the phone. And the nice thing is that the newer phones, the smallest capacity you can get is 64 gigabytes, which for a phone is pretty good. And then you can also get iPhones that have a 256, or I think there's even a 512 gigabyte phone now. That's as big as a computer hard drive. That's huge. So anyways, most people won't need that, but if you're a photo person, you might need that. So photos are the thing that kind of just eat space. So let's see if we can learn where and what, with managing my capacity. So from here, from the battery and health charging, we're going to stay in the settings, but I do want to back out. So I'm going to tap my back arrow there, and I'm going to go back again. So back to settings again. And so let's do the phone capacity itself, what I would call the local storage. Local just means it's not the cloud. The cloud is remote. Local is the device that's here in my hand. And by the way, let me pause for a second. Is the pace okay? Good? Okay, everyone staying with me? Good. Okay, so from here then in the settings, we want to find another set of silver gears that says General. And so I think I went down past it, so I'm going to glide back down to, isn't that weird? You glide down to scroll up. That's confusing. So look for general. It's not too far from the top. So if you kind of get lost, just go back to the top and then scroll a little bit down. So we're going to go into general. Okay, and then towards the bottom here is iPhone storage. So this is your local storage on the device, not the cloud, the phone or the iPad storage. And if you're on an iPad, it will say iPad storage instead of iPhone storage. So give that a tap. And the first thing to do is to look at this colored bar at the top, which sometimes takes a minute to load. And here you can see, so my phone is a 64 gigabyte capacity phone. So that's my total memory. And 43 gigabytes are being used. So it's hard to keep this phone straight. That's okay. Okay, so you can see the thing that's eating up the most space is apps. And then where it says iOS in orange, that really is a reference to the system software. So the iOS you can't really do anything about. It just is what it is, so you can't reduce that. And then you can see my next biggest thing is photos, which is actually not too bad, and that's because most of my photos are in the cloud. And then there's some other stuff here. And then all of this light gray space here is free, available, unused space. Now, if I really want to kind of see a bigger picture of what's taking up the room, and noting that, you know, apps is my biggest space hog, if I glide up a little bit, and actually you can see it already down here, that it says, you know, photos is taking up 2 gigabytes. And then here it says Blockscapes. So this is a game that I'm addicted to, and it's 740 megabytes, which is pretty big. That's almost a gig. So just in case these megabytes and gigabytes don't make any sense to you, I think I can clarify it. We'll start with kilobytes. So that's KB, and I would say, you know, just kind of for reference, something like a document, just like a simple letter document with no pictures or graphics inserted, 1 page of text. That document could be, I mean, maybe 100 kilobytes, and maybe even less than that, so 100 kilobytes. And then we'll jump up to megabytes then, and so think then 1,000 kilobytes will be in a megabyte. And for context, think of your average photo that your phone takes was probably going to be about 5 megabytes. So 100 kilobytes in a document, 5 megabytes in a photo, and it's about the same size as a song file, like a music, like a song file, your average song. That's also probably about 5 megabytes. And then we'll jump up to gigabytes, and if we then talk about something that's in the gigabyte range, would be something like a movie. Like, let's say you download a full-length, you know, Hollywood movie. It's about 2 hours long, at decent quality, and so that will cost about 2 gigabytes worth of space. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of context. And so it's 1,000 kilobytes in a megabyte, 1,000 megabytes in a gigabyte, 1,000 gigabytes in a terabyte. So, and I've never come across a single file that's a terabyte in size. That's monstrous. But so here, then 740 megabytes is about 3/4 of a gigabyte. And my whole phone only has 64 gigabytes available. So one game that is 700 and some megabytes is pretty big. So, so this would be the kind of thing where I have to decide, do I play this game enough to keep it, or do I need the space more? And so, so this list here really kind of shows you where to attack. Where do I go to start deleting stuff in order to free up space? Now, in this case, with something like a game or an app, you would likely just delete the whole thing. And so that means then if this is a game, if I delete it, I'm probably going to lose my progress through the game. So if this is Angry Birds and you don't want to start from scratch, then delete something else. So now when it comes to other things like messages here, so you can see messages are 600 megabytes. Now this one is very confusing because Messages are just those tiny little text bubbles. How can those really be very big? Well, those little text bubbles aren't very big, but on your phone, you probably have hundreds of thousands of those little text bubbles, and they do add up. But even more than that, you probably also have within your Messages app photos and videos that people have sent to your phone. And you have, emojis and animated GIFs, those little teddy bears that are dancing, all that stuff. That's really the stuff that kind of bulks up your Messages app. So, anyways, getting rid of that stuff is probably a topic for another day, but when it comes to Messages here, that's the kind of stuff that you have to go and attack is go and look through your Messages and start deleting the photos or save it. Save the photo first. That means then it'll migrate to your Photos app, and then you could delete it from the Messages here. And then if you do want to delete text bubbles, just remember that because they're so small, you've got to delete a ton of those text bubbles in order to free up some space. So look at this list here and just kind of glide up and just kind of take a look and see what are your space hogs. It's going to be the first 5 or 10 items, and so that's where you'll kind of have to look at your own list and kind of make a decision. What can I get rid of? What can I spare? I will say another thing, another place where people often get into trouble with their local storage is with podcasts. And so if you see something that says media, it might be podcast. And so now for that, you wouldn't delete the app. Just like with Messages, you're not going to delete the app. You're going to go to the app and delete content from the app. A game is something different where you can't really separate the two. But with something like podcasts, you might go into your podcast app, which is that purple icon, and then go into a section called Downloads, and then just start looking to see what you can delete from your podcast app. That's another place where people really, kind of get into trouble with a surprise amount of space that's being taken up on their phone. So I'll stop talking and see if there's some questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about music. Like I'll play my music and I don't know how to just make it really stop except push the pause or stop button. But then every time I turn my computer back on or my phone back on, it's still there waiting to play.
Yeah.
So should I some other way do that so it doesn't show up all the time?
Just so it doesn't show up. I think the thing you would do there is the quit gesture, so that it doesn't. You're talking about when you wake up your phone and it's sort of suggesting that you hit play. Yeah. So for that, you would do in order to quit an app. This is a great question. So in order to quit an app, let's see. I'll start with if you have a phone that does have a home button. This is different between those two phones. With a home button, you double click your home button, and then and if you've ever seen your apps kind of stacked up like this, this is where you want to go to quit an app. This is called the application switcher, is what this is technically called. So a double click on your home button. If you don't have a home button, this takes a little finesse to get to this screen, but you're going to do a glide upwards, but it's a little bit slower, because if you do a quick flick, then you're closing an app. So you just kind of go a little slower, and then it'll bring up this screen here where all of your apps kind of show up in 75% their size. And then you just take these each and just kind of flick them up and off the screen, and that will quit your app. And so hopefully that will, once you quit the music app, it shouldn't come back and say, let's listen. Yeah, another question.
I'm going on, there's a difference between an offload an app and a delete an app.
Yeah.
So offload an app, like I have one that's a big hog, and it's family album, so it's family pictures of
Yeah.
So I don't want to delete the app because maybe she could send me some more pictures, but all the old ones would be, so that would be offload again?
Well, yeah, so offload really means take the app itself and put it into the cloud, so it preserves the space. But But you would really only do that when you're looking at an app that you say, I don't use this that often, but so but I don't want to delete it. But if that's an app that you use with some regularity, you wouldn't want to offload it. You would probably see if there's other apps that you could get rid of. Yeah, yeah. So yeah.
So is there a similar easy way to find storage in the cloud?
Yes, that's where we're going next.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
With the messages, when you have this list of messages and you can get rid of a single string of messages, can you delete individual bits within the whole string?
You can. Yeah, you can. Yeah, in order to do that, if you want to just delete portions like just individual speech bubbles, once you go into a conversation, just kind of pick any random speech bubble and you'll do that long press where you kind of hold it down for a second, and you'll get a little menu that appears. You may have to glide up on that menu because what you're looking for is more. Yeah, and so tap more, and that then puts you into a mode where your messages have been indented, and then you can just tap a whole bunch of bubbles, and then at the bottom is a trash can. Yeah, so you can delete a portion of it, yeah, without deleting the whole thing, yeah. Okay, other thoughts or questions? Okay, let's go to the cloud. Or was there another one? No, okay. Okay, so let's do the cloud, and then we'll do a break. Okay, so for the cloud, I'm going to go back into my settings. Okay, so here I'm still on iPhone storage. So I'm going to go back here. So I'm going to tap my back button that says General. And then I'm going to go back again. So I need to be on my main settings screen, which is right here. And I know that because it says settings in bold at the top. So this is the initial settings screen. And for this, I'm going to go to the top. So I need to glide downward in order to scroll up. And where I'm going to go here is to your name at the top. Hopefully it says your name. It might say your spouse's name if you share an Apple account. But anyways, and you can kind of see here where it says iCloud. That's where we're going. So you're going to tap on your name here. It doesn't look like a button, but this little arrow here kind of tells us that this block here is actually a button. So tap on your name, and then where we're going is iCloud. This one is a little bit down a rabbit hole, and that's not too far. So tap iCloud here. Okay, and then here we are where we get that same color graph. Now, you saw here, if we compare to what I saw before, my local storage on the phone for photos was pretty small, but here in the cloud, it's pretty big. And you can see I'm getting pretty close to my limit. Now, one thing I'll mention about iCloud, so your cloud space can be enlarged. And Apple gives everyone, for free, you get 5 gigabytes of storage space, which is enough for a backup of your phone or your iPad and maybe your contacts, and that's about it. So Apple spaced their free quantity just perfectly so that most everybody in this country needs to upgrade to that first paid tier. But the good news is that first paid tier increases your capacity tenfold, so it'll bring you up to 50 gigabytes, and it's a whopping price of $1 a month. So if you can afford 12 bucks a year, this is the best way to make your space problems go away. Now, you can see I'm actually in danger of hitting the 50 gig mark. So in this case, there's 2 solutions. Like previously, when we're looking at the local storage, the only solution is delete stuff. Well, I guess the other choice is buy a new phone. If you're not ready for that, then you're back to one choice, delete stuff. The cloud gives you 2 choices that don't require buying a new phone. One of it is delete more stuff, and then the other choice is increase your cloud storage space. So, the way of less resistance may just be to increase your iCloud storage space. from 5 to 50, or maybe even 50 to the next one up, which is 200 gigabytes. It's hard for me to envision ever using 200 gigabytes, and the price goes up to $4 a month, maybe three or $4, somewhere in there. Is it $3? Okay, $2.99 a month. Okay, so this kind of tells you what's eating your space, and then if you want more specifics, like we saw before, you can come down here to Manage Account Storage, and so I'll give that a tap, and that should give me a little bit more detail. So here we go. So here's my space hogs. Photos are taking up 30 gigabytes. So if I decided, there's probably photos I could spare to get rid of. So then I'm not going to delete the app. I'm going to go to the Photos app and start deleting content from the Photos app. And that will free up space here. Messages are also taking up a decent amount of space there. So that would be another place that I could go and attack. iCloud Drive is 4 gigs. At least for me and my purposes, 4 gigs for iCloud Drive, which is going to hold documents. That's not really bad. And don't forget, documents are small, so that means you have to delete a lot of them. Yeah, and then my backup is in here, which is good, and I want that. So for me, I really have 2 places to attack: photos and messages. And so I would need to go to both of those apps and start deleting some content. So.
You go to your phone storage to do that. In other words, if I take it off, if I have photos on my phone storage, and I knock off a few of those photos, it'll also come off iCloud at the same time.
Yeah, a little bit will. And a lot of that depends on your setting. So if I come in here, so I'm in my, well, let me back out here. If I come back here, there should be a setting that addresses that. Let me see if I can find it. And then I'm gonna tap Photos here, not from the Manage account, but apps using iCloud. I'm gonna go to Photos here. Okay, and so when this is turned on, where it says sync this iPhone, this tells the phone to keep the entirety of the Photos app content in the cloud. But there's an important thing down here, which is optimize the iPhone storage and download and keep originals. Now, if this is turned off, then these settings won't appear at all. These settings only appear when sync this phone is turned on. So then and most people kind of gloss over this or don't see it, or it's easy to read those and go, I don't understand what that means. So here's what it means. Optimize the iPhone storage means keep the full resolution copy of my photos in the cloud, and then on my device, just, you're going to optimize the storage. So locally on the phone, only keep a small thumbnail. And so your small thumbnails still take up room on your phone locally, but the full resolution image is in the cloud. You might see evidence of that sometime when you hold your phone, you show your phone to a friend, and you say, hey, let me show you this photo, it's really cool. And you tap it, and it's blurry. And you go, what? Why, it's blurry. And then all of a sudden, before your eyes, it gets sharp. And so what's happening there is you've taken a small thumbnail, it's this big, and you've made it full screen, and so it's blurry, and you go, huh? And in the background, your phone is going, hey, Cloud, give me the high res, quick. And it downloads it, and then bang, right before your eyes, it gets nice and crisp and sharp. And so it has to download that high res photo. And so sometimes it's so fast you don't even see it, but other times there's that short delay where it's blurry, and it's just enough to go, what? And then it's good. So that's what's happening. So it's optimizing the storage space, and it's only downloading it when you call it up, when you tap it to open it. And then after you close it, the high res goes back to the cloud. Now, download and keep originals means keep a full resolution copy of my photo in the cloud and on my phone. So in that case, you're not worried about the space on your phone. So if you have this enabled, then your photos are taking up the same amount of room on the cloud and your phone. In a way, it's duplicated. The only reason to do that is to avoid that scenario that I just described, where you say, every time I open up a photo, it's blurry for a second. So you can avoid that delay by telling your phone to keep the originals, the high resolution copies, on the device itself. And then that way everything opens up, it's nice and crisp, and there's no lag time. But in that case, then you're effectively taking up room in both places. So when you delete a photo, then it frees up space in both places. And truth be told, even with this turned on, you could delete photos and you're still saving room on the phone too. The majority of it is going to be that high-res photo in the cloud, but that small thumbnail also takes up local space. So when you delete photos, it impacts both. Anyways, yeah.
What are backups in yours?
Yeah. Let me get back to that screen there. Okay, wait. I think this is where we were. Here you're looking under Manage Account Storage, and you see your backup. Okay, so your backup is something that the cloud does for you, and the backup is great. In fact, everyone must have an iCloud backup turned on, I think, unless you're going to back up your device to your computer, which nobody really does. But a backup is a full 100% copy of all the data that's on your phone or your iPad, and it's being kept in the cloud. And it's kept in the cloud for a very specific purpose, which is so that when you replace your phone or your iPad, maybe it's just your old one got old and it's time to get a new one. Maybe it was stolen. Maybe it was broken. You dropped it. It got wet, whatever. It's time to replace your device. So you get a new device, and the backup here comes in super, super handy, because as soon as you get your new device out of the box, it's going to ask you 3 questions. The first one is, connect me to a Wi-Fi, please. I can't live without the internet. The second one is, who are you? And so that means sign in with your Apple ID. And the third question is, would you like to restore this device from a previous backup? And you would say, yes, absolutely, restore my device from a backup. And then it just takes 15, 20 minutes, and all the data that's in the cloud from your previous phone or iPad comes rushing down to the new device. And that way then you can pick up right where you left off on your old device that's been replaced. And so the backup, I think, is critical. If you've ever lost a phone before and all your contacts were on it and you didn't have a backup, that's the worst. You wouldn't wish that upon your worst enemy. It's such a pain. So the backup is it's a lifesaver, but it's the kind of thing that you only use every couple of years, but it's critical to have it. So.
Mine seems to be a high number, 23.
23 gigabytes?
Mine's 33.
Okay.
Yours is 30.
For your backup?
Yeah.
Okay, so your backup might be huge. I'm actually surprised mine's only 1 gigabyte. Now if it's possible that, okay, there's a couple things that are possible. One is, and probably have to look at your devices, but it's possible that you could have multiple backups. So because your iPhone, your iPad, and maybe another device are all linked to the same Apple account, your iPhone and your iPad are backing up to the same cloud. Yeah, and depending on what you have on each device, that can balloon your backup. It's also possible, some people who take a lot of photos, their photos are not being synchronized to the cloud. Some people just say, I don't like the cloud, I don't understand it, I don't want to use it. So they don't have their photos in the cloud. So that means then that these photos here will stay local to the phone, and that then means then that they'll be a part of the backup. When your photos are in the cloud, in a manner of speaking, they're excluded from the backup. They don't have to be in the backup because they're being synchronized already by the cloud. So that could be a couple reasons for what's happening, but I'd probably have to take a look at your device to know exactly for sure. But yeah, so. I mean, if you're using Dropbox, well, so those won't go to the cloud. Dropbox is its own cloud. That would help free up space on your device, but it probably won't show up here in iCloud because it's a competing cloud. Yeah. Yeah.
So if someone you know got a new iPhone, they didn't get a backup when they got it. Is it too late to go back and back up from their old, so they don't have contact and all that?
I mean, if they've already turned that phone in, or something to get a credit or something, then it's too late. I mean, if they brought home their old phone and it still works and it's just in a desk drawer, it's not too late. But yeah. So, but if the new phone's already been set up, you're in a little bit of a pickle where you'd have to get the old phone, back it up to the cloud, and then your new phone that you've already set up. In order to get the data from the backup, you have to then erase that phone, and then you can go back and restore the data from the old phone to it. So, but if the old phone is gone already and there's no backup, you're out of luck. Yeah. So, all right. Other questions there on cloud storage? Yeah.
Can I ask this question? I've probably asked it a dozen times, it's still not clear when I hear this stuff.
Okay.
So if I'm deleting photos on my computer,
Okay.
I'm assuming it's in my computer that I'm working
And not the cloud?
and not the cloud.
Okay.
So if I delete a photo, does it go away in the cloud?
So it's going to depend on the settings on your computer. Yeah. So your computer has a setting just like this, where you can go into the cloud and you can look at photos. So if you're on a Mac, that setting is it's in very much the same place. You go to your silver icons, the settings, and then there should be on the next screen there should be iCloud in there, and you would then look for photos. It kind of the same kind of path as this: settings, cloud, photos, and then you're looking then for this, where this is is this switch enabled? On your computer, I don't think it looks like this. I think it looks more like a checkbox. I can't remember exactly, but now, if your photos are turned on in both places, your iPhone and your computer, then when you delete a photo on your computer, it does delete from your phone.
So I need to be in sync.
Yeah, right, because they're in sync, right. Yeah.
And the same thing with iPad and phone. Because sometimes I take a picture of my phone and it doesn't appear on my iPad.
Yeah, okay, so I think probably, I can only speculate, but probably what's happening there is this setting right here is turned on one device and not turned on the other device. And that creates the things aren't connecting to the same place. Yeah, yeah, sure. Okay, all right. Everybody doing okay? You ready for a short break? All right, why don't we do a short break here, maybe just 5 minutes or so, and then we'll come back and see if we can get through a few more. Now, there's a little button that just makes it really easy. So now, let me see if I can find it. This morning, in preparation for the class, I was like seeing if I could find a photo in some of my more recent messages, and I couldn't find one to demonstrate it. So I think I did find one, but it's going to take me just a moment here. And it's not a very exciting photo. There we go. Just medicine that somebody's recommending, but it'll serve the purpose. Okay, so when you want to save a photo from your text messages, what you can do, instead of just leaving them here, you can then put them into your Photos app, which is really where they belong, and that's where it'll, when you want to come back and refer to it, it'll be easier to locate it in your Photos app than it will be to find it embedded somewhere buried in a text message. So the super nice thing that Apple did is, just in recent software, is they added this little button right here. And it just kind of was a subtle add that they did. but this button here just means save it. And so you might have seen an icon that's very similar to that, but the arrow goes the other direction, a little square with an up arrow. And that button is called share. And so, and the idea is that, the square is your iPhone, the arrow means something is leaving it. Now, in this case, the arrow is reversed, so it means something's being added to your phone. And in this case, it's the photos. So that little icon, there is logic to it. It's limited. You might not look at it and go, oh, I get what that means. But anyways, I think understanding the icon a little bit will then help when you see other icons. Maybe you can kind of make some inferences about what it might do. So, so that's what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to tap that icon there, and it's going to turn blue, and then it's just going to disappear. The photos will stay put. So it turns blue, I get a check mark, and then it's gone. So, so in a way, when you don't see a save button there, it indicates it's already saved. So it's already in my Photos app, which is nice. And then actually, while we're here, this, well, no, that's okay. I think for the sake of time, we'll keep going here. But I do want to mention one thing about then when you go to find these photos within your Photos app. So if I leave my messages here, and then I go to my Photos app up here. So I'm going to tap on my Photos app. Now, I'm here in my photo library, and I look at the bottom, and those photos aren't there. And so it's like, well, wait, I just saved it. It's a recent photograph. Why isn't it right here? Well, the reason why it's not at the bottom of the list in the library is because that photo was sent to me by somebody else. I have no idea when he took it. And the library here organizes photos by the timestamp, which means the date the photo was taken. Okay, so wouldn't it be nice if there was a place on your phone that would show you photos by the date of arrival? There is. Where is it? Okay, it's in an album. So if you from your Photos app, if you go to albums and look at that, there it is. It's in the recents album. So the recents album, when I give that a tap, now it is down here at the bottom, as well as my other recent photos that I saw in the library. So there is a very subtle but super important difference between the recents album and the library. So the library arranges photos by their date, but by their timestamp, the date the photo was taken. And when somebody sends you a photo, you probably have no idea when that photo was taken. It could have been yesterday, it could have been 10 years ago. So in the Recents album, this section of the Photos app puts your photos in sequence according to the date of acquisition to the Photos app. Date of acquisition to the Photos app. Not when it was taken. But now if I went back to the library, these photos here that I saved, they are in here, but who knows where. I might have to ask my friend, when did you take those photos? Or I could just go looking for it, which could take forever. But if I need to reference it quickly, I can go to my albums and then go to recents, and that's where I'll find that. So yeah, so a very nuanced but critical difference. So now, of course, if this is a photo that's important and I want to, refer to it, even the recents album, as I take more photos, it will also kind of get buried higher up, and it might become difficult to find it. So what I would want to do is from the recents album, maybe mark it as a favorite, which means tapping the heart. And then there's another album in here that's, well, actually, so your favorites album is right here. And that way then, you're looking at a shorter list of photos that are marked as favorite. So that way you can locate it quickly. So, or you could put it into an album or things like that. And those are all great topics for another day. But anyways, that's where you can find your photos, is in albums under recents. So,
Recents would have every photo you've ever taken.
yeah, in a manner of speaking, it's pretty much every photo, just kind of arranged with that nuanced difference. Yeah, yeah. It's kind of weird because you get to a certain point where you're like, these photos aren't recent. Yeah, so good. Okay. Any questions about that? All right, let's move on. Okay, a screenshot. So taking a screenshot, so this means a screenshot is a picture of the content of your phone screen. So this is great when you maybe are on your phone, you're looking up a phone number, or you're in Safari and you've got a web page with an address or a phone number or some kind of information that you need to keep. And so what you can do quickly is you can do a screenshot, and that way it photographs the content of the screen, and then you can locate it in your Photos app. And so I'll just take a photo of the home screen right here. And so in order to do that, and this could be different on a phone that has a home button. And I don't have a phone that still has a home button, so I'm speculating a little bit, but I think I can help you get the job done. But I think even the phones that do have the home button can still take a screenshot the same way as the newer phones. So the first thing to try is you have to press two buttons on your phone simultaneously, and one of them is going to be the side button, which you might also know as the power button, but technically it's called the side button. It's so official that they call it the side button. Not a very creative name. And then you're also then going to press your volume up button on the other side. Volume down will not work. So the nice thing though is that they're kind of saddled, right across from each other. So with your index finger and your thumb, you can just squeeze them together at the same time, and it should result in a screenshot. And you'll know you're successful because you'll hear like a shutter sound, like an image, like a camera taking a photograph. And then you'll also see a small floating thumbnail that appears in the bottom left corner of your screen. And it only stays there for a second, and that's just to let you know you were successful in taking your screenshot. So I'll take mine now, and let's see if it works. There we go. The screen flashed, and there's my image, and then it's going to disappear after a second. It kind of stays there and floats for a moment. If you were to tap it, you could immediately send it off to somebody, or you could edit it. But otherwise, I think it's also there just to let you know that you succeeded. Now, if you're on a phone that does have a home button and that didn't work to squeeze those two buttons, you might try a different combo, which would be your side button and your home button at the same time. So that would require two thumbs, probably. And you can, press those at the same time, and you should get a screenshot. So then the question is, where do I find it? So you could go to your Photos app, and it should be in both places. So the library shows photos by their date that they were taken, which is a moment ago. So it shows up here at the bottom under the library. If I go to my albums, it's also recently acquired by the Photos app, so it's at the bottom, in this case, in both places. But I also want to point out, if you scroll up a little bit, there should be a section called Media Types, and Screenshots has its own category. And so you could also go into Albums and scroll down to Media Types and Screenshots, and you'll see all your screenshots in there. So, yeah.
So if I delete it in screenshots, is it still in albums?
No. That's a great question. Yeah. Now, the reason for that is because these media types are system albums. They generate themselves based on the presence of a photo in that category in your library. So what that means is that this section here is synchronized to your library. If you delete something from any of these albums, it's gone from the library. But to your question, which is a great question, this section up here where it says My Albums, if it's an album that you created, uh, if you delete a photo from an album here, it does not delete it from the library. But the opposite is not true. If you go to the library and you delete it, it's gone from your album because the photo that's in the library is the root image. Um, Things that are in your albums are reflecting the root images here in the library. But when you go down to where it says media types, they're effectively the same thing. You're looking at the root image in both cases.
So I need to clean up. So if I put a photo from my library, every photo resides in the library. Is that correct?
Correct.
But
Yeah.
then if I do subset and say, oh, I want to do a family album or whatever, I can delete a photo from the family album, but it's still in the library, but not vice versa.
Correct. Yes, you got it.
And I'm not taking up extra space by making albums.
Correct.
Okay.
That's right. Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people love to make albums to get organized, which is great. Um, and then some people are worried, well, I have the photo now in my albums, plus it's in the library, so I have a duplicate, and that's not true. The things that are in your albums, it's my word, not Apple's, but I call it a reflection. So it's really just kind of a second location for the same photo. So it's not a duplicate photo. It's not taking up extra room on your device. Yeah, and I was going to mention one more thing. Oh, I had somebody one time tell me that they put every single photo that was in their library, they organized it into an album on their phone. And I was very impressed. That's incredibly ambitious. Only one person's ever told me that. But then they said, I don't like the library because it's just cluttered. It's just kind of everything. So I put all my photos into all these albums, and then I went back to my library and I started deleting everything. No, no, no. You can't do that. When you delete it from the library, there's nothing to reflect. So your albums just empty out. So super important. Good question. I'm glad we talked about that. Okay, other thoughts on the screenshot?
Oh, I have another question.
Yeah.
It's kind of semi-related, which is a silly question, but I have a zillion emails. If I put an email in a folder, and then delete it, is it still in the folder, or I've deleted it but placed it?
I mean, if you put an email into a folder, I guess maybe depending on where your folder is, if your folder is a part of your email account, if it's in your email cloud, then it should leave the inbox. So it should only be in one location. Yeah. So if you were to delete it, it would be gone. Yeah.
No, but I mean, it's still in the folder. If I delete it, oh,
But it won't be, once you move it to the folder, it won't be in your inbox.
right, so I can empty my inbox and just put it without having it in the file, in the folder.
Yeah, that's true. You could delete everything else from your inbox, but the message that you saved will still be there. Yeah. So, okay. All right. So, oh yeah.
So, I heard there's a way to a rule. So when an email from my cellular comes in, it'll automatically.
Yes, there is such a thing as mail. You use the right word, rules, mail rules, where you basically tell your device, and you can create all kinds of different criterias, but you had the right idea, if there's always it's like an if statement, it's an if then statement. If an email comes into my inbox from this person, then file it into this folder. So you can do all that. I actually have never done that from the phone. You can do that on a computer. I'm not even sure that you can do that on the phone. I'm just exploring real quickly. I'm in the settings under Mail, and I don't know that there are options to set up rules. I don't think there are.
I think there's options to set up a rule to send it to a folder. I don't know if you can send a picture.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I'd have to look a little bit more about that. But that's something it definitely is easier on a computer. I'm not even sure how possible it is on a mobile device. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Number 7 here is the app library. This is a quick and simple one, which is great. Have you ever had a moment where you're looking for an app, I should say an app that you know that you've downloaded it in the past, and you can't find it? And you're just like, I'm looking everywhere. I can't locate this app. So where is it? Well, the app library gives you a really cool way where you can just look at all of the apps on your device in alphabetical order. So instead of looking at them like this, or instead of looking at things like this, where I have all these little folders and I can't visualize, I can't see where my stuff is at. So what you can do here is from your home screen, you'll notice on your home screen here at the bottom it says search, and then if you glide just in the middle of the screen, if you glide to the left, then you'll see these dots, and then the dots quickly change back to search. So anyways, you kind of see that where it shows the dots, and I have 3 dots before it goes back to search. So those 3 dots indicate that you have 3 screens or 3 home screens that have apps on them. So I have this one, and then I have that one. All right, those are my 3 screens. So in order to find the app library, your app library, you go to the unspoken 4th dot. So once you go to your, in my case, my 3rd screen, I don't have any apps that are further to the right, but I'm going to glide one more time to the left, and that brings me to the app library. So it's kind of this like hidden screen. It's so hidden that people usually end up here accidentally, and then they're like, oh my God, I don't know what I've done. How do I get out of this? Okay, well, so the app library, the first thing I'll mention here, I'll show you the alphabetical list in just a moment, but at least right here, all of your apps are kind of rearranged. They're kind of put into these little folders by theme, and the phone has done this on its own. So, I have recent apps, social apps, productivity apps, utilities, travel apps, things like that. So this may be one way that helps me identify my app just by giving me sort of a different view. But if I want just a simple alphabetical list, there's no button on the screen here, but from this screen here, just right in the middle of your screen, just do a flick downwards, just a short flick downwards. And look at that, an alphabetical list. Isn't that great? One of the best kept secrets. Yeah. And so now, of course, you can just launch an app simply by just tapping the app icon, and that will launch your app. So now, this is not, I just want to be clear, this is not the App Store. This is not where you're going to go to look for an app to download. This is apps that are already on your device. So, but yeah. So if there's an app you can't find, come to the app library, do your flick downwards, and then you can just look by alphabet. And in many ways, it seems like this is what the home screen should look like. Just an alphabetical list. It would make it so much easier to find the app that you're looking for. So, okay, and then to get out of it, you can hit your cancel button up at the top right. And then to get out of this, you can just glide to the right. So if you remember, we glided to the left to get into it, so we can glide to the right to get back out. You can also just hit your home button or do your flick upwards, and that will also exit the app library. So, so that's it for the app library. It's just a quick, simple, but very powerful, very nice. So, okay. The magnifier. So the magnifier is great. If you've ever tried to get a medicine bottle in the middle of the night, I have a headache, I have something, you're trying to read this bottle, you're half asleep, it's dark, you don't really want to turn the lights on because it's going to be blinding, and so you're just like, oh, what does this bottle say? The text is so small. The magnifier is a great, great tool, and this comes built into your iPhone. So, so everyone should have the magnifier, although it's possible that the magnifier app has been deleted. So if by chance we go through this process and you can't find it, you'll want to go to the App Store and do a search for magnifier. But I'll show you what the icon looks like. That way you don't get the wrong one. Now, you could, of course, look through your home screen apps here for the magnifier, but if you can't find it, use the app library. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to glide over, keep going to the left. Here's my app library. Now I actually see it, but if I, so the magnifier is this icon right here. It's black with this white magnifying glass with a plus in it. But if you can't find it, then do your flick downwards and then just scroll up to the M's, and hopefully you see magnifier in there. And that's where if you say, I don't see it, then someone deleted it. This is where I like to tell people, your adult children are wonderful people. Don't let them touch your phone. Your grandkids are great. They're adorable. They're beautiful people. When you give them your iPhone, they will change it and they'll make decisions for you. And they'll say, oh, mom or dad, grandma, grandpa, they're never going to use this app. Let me get rid of some clutter. So it's all very well intended. But then people come to one of my classes and I say, all right, everybody get your magnifier out. And people are like, I don't have it. And it's because somebody deleted it for you. So anyway, so that's the joke I make that's half serious. So anyways, this is what you're looking for, which is the magnifier. So if you can find it, give it a tap to open it. And so then it really just kind of activates your camera. So I just have the camera now pointed down at the top of the podium where I have my notes here. So just imagining for a moment that my notes is really a medication bottle and I'm half asleep and it's dark. Now, there is a lot of buttons on this screen at the bottom. This is one app that used to be so simple, and then Apple decided to complicate it with all of these buttons here that you'll never use, except for one, and that is the flashlight. And so I'm going to forego, just for the sake of time, these buttons over here because I don't think most people are ever going to use them. You could explore them on your own just to kind of see what they do. But if it is dark and you're trying to look at that medication bottle, just tap the flashlight here, and that will, of course, shed light on what you're looking at, which is nice. And then you can also, you see it turns yellow there, so that means that it's turned on. You can tap it again to turn it off. Now, the whole idea here is that you can use this yellow dot here, a slider, to zoom in on what you're looking at. So I'm gonna tap and hold that yellow dot and slide it upwards. And there it kind of zooms in. You can see that text is getting real big. Now, one thing that's good to know is that if I'm trying to hold this medication bottle and hold my phone, I can't read that. It's a little jittery. So the nice thing you can do is try to get your phone into a position, and then you have a shutter button. That's this kind of white, these two white circles. That's one button, and just give that a press, and the image will freeze. And then you can put the bottle down, and you can just look at your phone screen. And so, so the text is frozen here, which is nice. Now, the nice thing about this is that this does not save any image to your Photos app. Many people have discovered that they can also use their camera, and then they can just zoom in and take a photo of the text, but then they have an image of medication instructions in their photo library. And maybe that's what you want so that you can refer to it later, that would be fine. But if you're the kind of person, you're like, I have all these images in my photo library, I don't want them there. This is a better method where you don't have to worry about this image being saved to your photo library. The other nice thing about this is that even though this image is frozen here, it actually took a bigger picture than what is represented on the screen. And so what that means is I can move it around. So right in the middle of the screen, I can just take my finger and glide up or down, left or right, and I can pull additional portions of that image. So if I don't get my medication bottle quite, if I don't grab the whole thing, it's okay, because it actually probably did grab it, and I just have to move it into view. And then also, I can live zoom in or out on the image, so I can grab that little yellow dot even while the image is frozen, and I can zoom out, and I can see a little bit more. I can zoom in, and read it a little bit more clearly. So, and if you want to see the entirety of what was captured, just drag that yellow dot all the way to the left, and so at this point I can't move it around any further. This is all that was captured. But anyways, but when you zoom in first and then you kind of freeze the image, you've really got a lot more than you can initially see on the screen. So a really nice feature. Yeah, Jim.
I found magnifier in my alphabetical listing. I clicked on it, so then I got what you're showing up there. And then I went back to see if I could find magnifier on one of my screens. I can't find it.
Can't find it.
Yeah.
So what you could do there, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do I need now to go to the App Store and get it?
No. So, yeah, so I could explain how that happened. I don't think it would probably be useful or interesting, but so I think the bigger question is how do you get it back onto the home screen? So what you can do from that alphabetical list is do a long press on the app, and then you should be able to kind of drag it to the left, almost like you're trying to drag it off the side of the screen, and it should let you add it back to your home screen. Yeah. So, okay, did everybody get that to work? Yeah, Jeannie.
I found it, well, I think utilities came on iPhone,
Okay.
and it has clock calculator, magnifier, it's even got measuring and the leveling
Yeah.
capability.
That's right. Yeah, your iPhone has a leveler in there too.
Yeah.
Pretty nice for hanging pictures if you happen to be an artist. Yeah. So yeah, maybe if you can find a folder that's called utilities, I think you're right. That does come kind of pre-made on your phone. So look for a folder that says utilities, and maybe your magnifier is hiding in there. So it's one of those apps that gets lost, either because it's in that folder, or sometimes people delete it, kind of not realizing what it is or what it does. But this app's a lifesaver. I use this app several times a week. It's great. So, all right. Any questions about the magnifier? All right. Cool. So if you want, you can explore these other buttons down here. I don't think you'll find them useful. Maybe if you need to increase the contrast, you could do that. This one's brightness. This one's color filters. I really don't sort of understand the point of that. So I think Apple's just trying to make everything available in every app, and it's like, that's too much. Just give me what I need. Okay, now this image will actually stay here, not in your Photos app, but just kind of frozen here if you close out. So if you want to unfreeze it in order to take a different image, you just tap on the X now, and then it will return back to kind of a live image. And then at this point, you can close just by doing your flick or pressing your home button, and that'll get you back out of there. So, but that's your magnifier. It comes built into your phone, which is super nice. I think it's another one of those best kept secrets. So, super useful. Okay, let me see how we're. Oh, wow, it's 3. Okay. Let me just do number 10 real quick here, which is resetting your iPhone or your iPad. The trackpad's pretty cool. I think it'll take too long, but hopefully this will be a teaser, and you can give some feedback about this awesome class to Kim, and we can do some more in the spring. So, okay, so resetting your iPhone or your iPad, this is in line with simply restarting your device. So when your device is having a bad day, your device can get grumpy just like anyone else can. And apps start crashing, which means you open it up and it just shuts right back down. Or sometimes you're pressing a button and it's not responding, and it's like, what's going on here? So when your phone is having a day like that, where it's just not responding, or it's just, you're just like, it's finicky. Something's wrong with my iPhone today. It's grumpy. You can do a reset. Now, reset sounds more powerful than it is. That almost sounds like I'm erasing the device. And that's not what reset means. That's what restore means. Restore means erase it. Reset is more in line with like a reboot. And so, of course, whenever you're on the phone with somebody trying to get help on your computer, what's the first thing they tell you to do? Reboot your computer. And that usually just means turn it off and then turn it back on. And a reset is a little bit different. In effect, what is the same is the device is being shut off and it is turning right back on. So a reboot is included in a reset. But what it also does is, I have it written down here, which is better than I can say it. Yeah, it's better than a power cycle, which a power cycle is just off and on. That's what I mean by a power cycle. And a reset is a little better because it clears the cache and some of the other temporary memory on your device that can give the device a cleaner startup. So turning the device off and back on can help with some of those glitchy things that we were just talking about. But a reset goes a little further, and it's a little better, and it's just as easy to do. So let me show you how to do that. It's a series of button presses, and it's going to feel a little bit weird, but really what you do is on your phone, you have to press 3 buttons in succession, not at the same time, but in succession. And it starts with volume up, and then volume down, and then your side button. But here's the catch. Your volume buttons are each just a quick press, press and release, and then you're going to hold your side button down for probably close to a minute. And what's going to happen here is your screen will turn black, and you'll see that screen where it says, slide to power off. You'll be tempted to let go. Don't let go. Keep holding that side button down and let the screen go black, and then keep holding it down until you see the Apple logo. And it's very easy to let go too soon. So I'll demonstrate it here. Now, of course, when I restart, you won't see anything on the screen there. So maybe just kind of look at my phone. So I'm going to do up, down, and then my side button here. And okay, so you see that. So I'm still holding it down. I'm going to keep holding it. Eventually it's going to turn black. There it goes black. Now, of course, we won't see it up there. And you see the Apple logo, and now I let go. So that's the trick, is waiting for the Apple logo. People are tempted to say, well, how long do I hold? Is it 30 seconds? Is it a minute? It's until you see the Apple logo. So now it's rebooting, and now it comes back up, and now I should be able to reconnect with the projector here. Should just take a moment. But so that is a reset. It's like a reboot plus a little bit more. And it can kind of help your phone when it's having a grumpy day. So, okay. I think it's going to connect to the projector. We'll see. At least on my end, the screen is illuminated. But questions about that? All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, I'll stick around a few minutes after class if anyone has some questions. I also have some business cards down here if you're interested in a one-on-one session. I also make house calls in addition to these classes. Anyways, if you need some more help, you just want to sit down for an hour and go through a list of your own questions, that's something I can do for you. So thanks so much for having me out here. This is great. Yeah. And I look forward to hopefully coming back maybe next time